Hello there. Welcome back to the Path to Better A1C podcast. I am your host, Jenny Peña, National Board Certified Health and Wellness Coach and Diabetes Prevention Program and Lifestyle Coach. Always bringing some light, awareness, tips, strategies so that you can increase your energy, increase your focus, balance your blood sugar, lower your A1C while still living a full life. That's the whole point, right? Having strategies that are sustainable. Now, I'm super excited about today's episode 43. I can't believe this. We are going to continue talking about cravings, but today we are going to get into decoding your cravings. This is super interesting. Do you have a sweet tooth? Are you a salty snacker? And what can that be actually telling you about your body? What is your body telling you when you're craving one thing versus the other? Now, before we dive in, I want to remind you that I have this free resource that pairs perfectly with this month's theme, and that is my blood sugar balancing snacks list. I have updated that list, and inside you're going to find simple snack combos and again, maybe some berries, maybe some salty stuff, maybe some roasted chickpeas, and yes, even some dark chocolate in there. And they're all designed and paired to keep your energy steady and keep your cravings at bay so that you can manage them better. And you can grab them for free at subscribepage.io/snacks. And I will put everything in the description of the episode. So don't forget to grab it. Now, let me ask you this. Are you a sweet tooth or a salty snacker? As for me, some days there's sometimes that I want something sweet, but I'm more of a salty, savory snacker. It seems to be. I was actually surprised years ago when I was diagnosed with prediabetes because I felt that I was not that, I didn't have a sweet tooth that most people with diabetes tend to have. And I felt almost like, oh, what is going on? Like, why did I have to do this when I don't even eat that many sweets? But um, I had different situation in terms of my diet, and that's what actually kind of like caused all that sugar imbalance. But let's get back into the theme of the podcast. Now, today we are going to decode this because some days you may be craving chocolate, other days you may be craving chips, other days you may be craving pretzels, and sometimes both. And they do mean something, right? Having sometimes sweet, sometimes salty cravings, the body is trying to say something, and you noticing them will give you power, not guilt. You being aware that, every time this happens, I tend to crave ABC. Fill the line. Now, here's the truth. Cravings aren't that random. A lot of people are like, oh, I just woke up feeling like this. No, they're not random. They're signals. Sweet and salty cravings often come from different triggers. And once you know what to look for, you can respond with curiosity instead of judgment. That's kind of like almost a tagline for the entire month. Curiosity instead of judgment. Be curious about why is this happening? Now, sweet cravings often show up when the blood sugar drops. Your brain loves fast fuel, and sugar is the quickest energy source. So that's why I keep talking about keep your blood sugar balance, try to keep it steady, is because that imbalance is what actually triggers the cravings. Now, there's another element that has to do with emotional comfort, right? We connect sweets to celebrations, to nostalgia, to that event, to this routine that you had on Sunday evenings with your grandmother. Um, all of these things create that association with certain foods and comfort. Even stress, sadness can actually flip those cravings on. We're looking for that comfort. The other element to think about is low serotonin. Now, this is one thing that I tell a lot of my clients because they come up with all of these extreme diets, carnivore, extreme low carb. Carbs help produce serotonin, and it's a natural mood booster. So a lot of people that sometimes have these mood swings, maybe depression, sadness, um, carbs actually help regulate all of that. So when your serotonin levels dip, the brain pushes us towards that sweet carb for that good lift. So the body is just trying to survive. And that's why I am not an advocate, unless like you have a specific condition and your doctor recommends, I'm not an advocate for these extreme low diets, keto, all the I see them as something that is going to be a quick fix. You're going to get results. But unless you can see yourself eating the way like that for the rest of your life, it's going to be hard to sustain. And there's this element about the serotonin that the more that I read about, the more I think that it's not about the carbs, it's about the right carbs. But let's continue talking about this. Now, the last element that I want to mention are habit loops. Sometimes you have these so-called cravings and they are not triggered by your brain. They are not triggered because you're hungry or because you need fuel or because you're feeling emotional. It is purely out of habit, right? Having dessert after dinner, having coffee and a muffin mid morning. Over time, your brain will expect sweets or expect those salty things at those times. So the craving becomes a cue, not hunger. And we talked about that on the previous episode. We talked about hunger, appetite, and cravings, right? So that craving that you're feeling is actually a cue, it's a habit cue. It has nothing to do with hunger. Your body is not telling you to eat. You're just so used to having that at that time that you're just doing it out of pure routine. That's it. And I have a quick story to tell you. I had a client who always reached for cookies at 3 p.m. Always. Not because she was hungry, not because she didn't have the balanced meals or all of that. It was just because her brain had learned, okay, 3 o'clock, we get a cookie. Once she noticed that pattern, she swapped it. And that's where the snacks list that I mentioned earlier comes handy. She swapped it. She was like, well, instead of a cookie, let me get some Greek yogurt. Let me put berries. Let me put something kind of sweet, right? For the snack. She still felt that it was a treat, but her energy levels changed, right? So that's the power. Either you break that cue or you replace that for something that is going to give you steady energy. And eventually your body is going to react differently. Now, let's talk about the salty cravings, right? Like we talked a little bit about the sweet cravings and the cookies and all that. So let's talk about the salty cravings. And there are a few elements that actually can trigger these salty cravings. The very first one is dehydration and lack of salt. Now, please talk to your provider, talk to your doctor if you have high blood pressure, all these things in terms of like salt. But salt is essential for hydration. If you're dehydrated or if you're low on electrolytes, your body may push you towards the chips and the pretzels. The other element that sometimes will push those salty cravings are stress and cortisol. So, stress changes sodium balance, it actually changes hormone pathways. And these salty cravings often rise when you're under high stress or if your adrenal glands are working overtime, right? So, you know how the stress kind of like has your body creating cortisol. It's that fight or flight mode. Like your body's always in alert. And it's not like it's not supposed to, but you're not supposed to be at that level for a continuous amount of time, for a long period of time. If you are under constant stress and you're not finding ways to balance that out and regulate, you're going to get those salty cravings. Now, the other thing, and this is mainly for women, but men do have hormonal shifts too. But many women notice the salty cravings right before the period, then hormone changes shift, fluid balance, and then the craving follows, right? So, also knowing the time of the month and understanding and being aware. Me personally, I'm already aware. I'm like, okay, why am I craving all these things? I'm eating well. And then I realize, okay, it's this time of the month. I guess like my hormones are shifting. So you see how curiosity and being aware helps you manage them and troubleshoot? Okay. The other thing is, I know this is nice and simple, texture and crunch. Sometimes it's just about stimulation and boredom, right? So if you're bored, and there is something about eating something crunchy and hearing the sound, and there's just something about it, right? Like that's why movie popcorn tastes so irresistible. Again, first the cue with the smell of the butter, and you're like, it just tells you movies, right? Like you smell popcorn, you immediately think about watching a movie. And think about this like late night craving for popcorn, right? Like it may not just be the salt. I don't think all of us think of, oh my God, I want popcorn so bad. I think we just tied it to that event. So if you go to the movies, it's the popcorn and the sweets and the huge drink, because obviously that popcorn with all the salt gets you thirsty. So you want that sweet drink. It just goes together, right? Um, so it's not just the salt that you're craving, it's the ritual, it's the comfort, it's that satisfaction of that crunched all roll into one. Now, there are instances in which you may be craving both sweet and salty. So, have you ever grabbed like chocolate covered pretzels or like a trail mix with chocolate and salt and nuts? So, craving both at once often signals fatigue, stress, or your body stacking signals. And it could be I need energy and I need minerals. So there's a nutrient trigger in there. There may be some nutrients that you're not including in your diet. Not just energy, not just having a balanced meal with protein and fiber and healthy fats. There's more than the body is trying to communicate. So here's how to start decoding your cravings, right? Like, you know that how I always like to give you something to do, right? Like we decoded, we explained all this beautiful information. So now let's start decoding the cravings. Um, when you're feeling that craving, pause and name it. Is it sweet? Is it salty? Is it comfort? Is it crunch? Is it thirst? Hydrate first. Have that glass of water. Most times it calms that salty craving. Make sure you build your balanced meals. Remember my PFF um, formula: protein, fiber, and healthy fat. And that is going to try to keep your steady energy. And think about healthier swaps. So if you're craving something sweet, and that's why I created that blood sugar balancing snacks list. If you're craving something sweet, there are things that are sweet, there are things that are savory that you can swap that will give you way more energy and hopefully satisfy that signal that the body's trying to tell you. That's why I created the snacks list. That was the whole point of it, because so many people were coming back telling me that how can I just balance the cravings? Even while they cleaned up their meals and all of that, they still kind of had those cravings. Um, so these are great ways of you swapping certain things and starting to balance your body and your cues. Now, here's a gentle reminder that Cravings aren't failures, they're messages, they're cues, they're signals from your body. Sweet cravings, it may be asking for comfort or quick energy because maybe you haven't eaten what you should be eating. Salty cravings might be pointing to dehydration and stress. So when you pause and decode them, you move from reacting with guilt to responding with it with a choice. And that shifts, changes everything. So today we decoded sweet and salty cravings. Next week, we're going to explore hunger versus habit and how to tell when you're actually hungry and when it's just your brain following a loop. And don't forget to grab your free blood sugar balancing snacks list at subscribepage.io/snacks. You're going to have some options there and maybe be inspired. You can create your own choices by following that PFF formula. Thank you so much for listening. Feel free to share this if you know anyone that is struggling with cravings. All throughout the month, we're going to be talking about all of this. And hopefully, I'll see you on the next episode, number 44. Have an amazing rest of your week. Until the next one.